Hello again, guys. So as we're going to work on our tutorial 5, creating advanced queries and enhancing table design, you'll notice that we will be using the Clinic database for tutorial 5. I have that uploaded in Blackboard for you to download and then use this to follow along with the tutorial. Let's get started on our Clinic database, opening it up and getting ready to start our creating advanced queries. First few steps we're going to do is nothing new. We're going to create a new query in Design View, and that'll be covered over the next 2 pages. You see the steps here. And there's our final product. So let's go ahead and get that created. Okay, we have our Clinic database open here, and we're going to go ahead and go on the ribbon and click the Create tab. Next, we're going to click the Query Design button, which will open the Show Table dialog box. Next, we're going to click on the table patient and the tables box and click Add to add that table to work with here. Since that is the only table we're going to be working with, let's go ahead and hit Close. Now let's expand our table patient here so we can see all the available fields we have. There we go. Now we'll be working with all of our fields this week, so let's go ahead and double click the title bar here. That will select all of our fields. Go ahead and grab one and we'll drag it down here, add them. You can see that all the fields we wanted have been added from our table patient. Just to make sure, there we go, all the way down to email address. So everything matches as expected. Next, let's move on to the next section, which is to specify records that match the indicated pattern. Now you will notice that those steps are starting on page 239 and finishing over here on 240. Now let's get back to our database and get these steps completed. Alright, while we still have our query open here, let's scroll over to the phone field here, and we're going to go down into our criteria and we're going to use the like function. So let's go down here, start typing like, and then quotes 860. And remember to add those quotes because they're very important and it will not work without them. And we want to put a special character in here, the asterisk. So like 860 with the 860 star in quotes. Now let's go ahead and save our query with the clicking on the save button, and then we're going to call our query 860 area code. Save. We've got our query name there. Hit OK. Now in the Design tab in the Results group, let's go ahead and run our query to see the results. And those query results should look exactly like they do in Figure 5-3. And right away you can see that we do have the exact query because we have 46 records, just as stated in Figure 5-3. Next, let's go ahead and change the first record and change the last name and first name to reflect your first and last name. There we go. Go ahead and save that query and close out of it. Good job. Let's go into the next section, which is to create the query using a list of values match. Now the steps for to create the query using a list of values matches are on these next 2 pages here. Let's go ahead and get back to our Clinic database and get this completed. Now the first thing we're going to do is to create a copy of our query 860 area code query and give it a new name of Query Bloomfield Windsor Meridian Patients. So let's go ahead and do that now. So make a copy of this. Once you get that typed in, go ahead and hit OK. And you'll see that our new query has been placed in the correct area. Let's go ahead and modify our new query by right-clicking on it and opening it in Design View. And your screen should match mine. Just so we have more active workspace, let's go ahead and close our shutter bar. Now we don't need the phone criteria box here, so let's go ahead and click on that. And we are going to go ahead and just press the delete key to delete that field. There we go. Now to create our record selection based on matching field values to a list of values, we're going to use the in-comparison operator. And when you use this operator, you must enclose the list of values you want to match within parentheses and separate those values with commas. So let's go ahead and do that step now. Go over to our city field here. We'll right-click on that. Now I had to change my screen a little bit here, so let's right-click on city, click zoom. Now we'll build our criteria here. We'll put our criteria in here. Let's go ahead and get rid of city there. Now that should look exactly like it does in your book. Go ahead and click OK once you've got that typed in. Lastly, let's go ahead and save our query again. Does not like my expression, so let's go in and fix that. And I can see that I inadvertently collected the field rather than the criteria area for our city field. So let's go ahead and revert that back to city. Right click on criteria, go back into zoom. There we go. Now I'll save. Everything looks good. Let's go ahead and run our query and see what we come up with. Now if your query doesn't run, make sure that you only have one set of quotes in each of these. If you have two, it's not going to return any values. Let's go ahead and hit OK. We'll hit run. Should get 20 results. And we have them. Now that we have that, we'll move on to the next section to create the query using the not logical operator. Using our Bloomfield Windsor Meridian Patients, we're going to rename that to non-Bloomfield Windsor Meridian Patients in the following steps. Those steps are listed over the next couple pages, AC 241, 242, and that'll be those steps. Let's get back into our clinic database and apply all these steps. Alright, go ahead and close the query now. Alright, let's go ahead and rename our query here. We're just going to put non here before Bloomfield. Hit enter. And now our query's been renamed. Let's open our new query in Design View. And we are going to change our city field condition to add the not logical operator. Let's go back into our criteria field and go back down to zoom to bring up our criteria condition we create. And real simple, let's just put the word not before in. Add a space. Let's go ahead and hit OK. Let's save and run. And you'll immediately notice that our record amount has changed from 20 to 31. Now the next steps in the book tell us to delete this query, but I want to leave it there so that I can see your guys' work. You took all the time to build that query. Let's go ahead and keep it. Then we'll move on to our next section, which we will be opening the January or walk-in query in Design View because we are going to filter the records using an autofilter. Let's go ahead and show you those steps now. As you can see, those steps are here on 242 and 243. We'll go ahead and go back into our database and start performing those steps now. Go ahead and open our January or walk-in query here in Design View, and then we'll close shutter bar. There we go. Now you'll notice the condition that's created here in the criteria field. That will select all visits between January 1st, 2016 and January 7th, 2016. So let's go ahead and run this query. And you'll notice our results, we have 37 results. Let's go ahead and show our autofilter menu here by clicking on the arrow here in City. Let's go ahead and uncheck select all here because we want to limit this. We're just going to check the Hartford box here to make that one active. And then we will click the West Hartford as well. And these two checkboxes indicate that the autofilter will include only those two city field values. So let's go ahead and hit OK. And you can see our results have been filtered down to 18 records based on the criteria that we selected for cities of Hartford and West Hartford. Now let's go ahead and toggle our filter off. And you'll see all 37 records have been applied. Now we'll put our filter back on by toggling that one more time. Let's go ahead and save our query to display only those 18 records. And go ahead and close our query. And let's go ahead and open up our navigation bar again. And we'll move on to our next section, in which we will create a query to display the patient name. Let's go ahead and show you those steps now. And those steps to create the query to display the patient name will run over the next several pages, starting here with 245. And ending here on 248. Let's go ahead and jump back into our database and start working on all these steps. Let's create a new query by going up to the Create tab, Query Design. Alright, let's go ahead and select our patient table again. Go ahead and drop that down to see all of our fields. Once again, let's add all of our fields. Go ahead and grab one after we've selected them all. Bring them down here, drop them. And now all of our fields are available. And we did this just to emphasize what a point in the book was. You'll notice the trouble section there. If you accidentally drag the highlighted fields to the first column in the design grid, we can still move these. So let's go ahead and click in our patient ID field so we can have our first column here available for our expression. Let's go up here to the query setup group and let's click insert column. And that'll move everything over so that we have this field available. I just want to show you guys that so if you ever make that same mistake, you know how to fix it. Okay, let's right click over here and select build. And you should see that the expression builder dialog box opens. Now you'll notice that our customer wants us to use the word patient as the name in the calculated field. So let's go ahead and type that now and then press the space bar. And then we will create our function. checking out the names there, let's double click functions to see what's available here. Now let's click built-in functions. From there we're going to click expression. Category, and we're going to scroll those down until we find program flow. Click that. Then we are going to select the if function. Let's go ahead and double click that to add that up in our expression builder. Once you've double clicked that, you'll notice that the if function has been added with 4 placeholders to the right of the calculated field name patient that we gave it. There in our expression box. Now let's go ahead and modify our expression here a little bit because there's some parts here we don't need and we need to change. So let's go ahead and click EXPR here. We don't need that, so let's go ahead and delete. And then we need to click here in expression. Let's go ahead and click that. Now with that selected, let's go down to our categories here and click inspection. And we are going to select the is null expression value. Double click that, and that's been created there. Now let's choose expression here again, and let's just type in the word parent. Now let's click on the true part here. And let's type in the following last name and quote, comma, end quote, and first name to finish creating the calculated field there. So after you get the criteria then for your true part, go ahead and do your false part and it should look like what I have here. Now that you have your completed calculated field done, let's go ahead and click the OK button in the expression builder. And we are going to go ahead and click the right side of the patient sort box to display the sort order options, and we're going to choose ascending. On the Design tab in our Show High group, let's go ahead and click the Property Sheet. Now we're not going to make any changes here. I just want you to see that we're going to leave the caption set to null so that the column name for the calculated field in the query record set will be patient, which is the calculated field name that we assigned it already. So let's go ahead and click on the Property Sheet button again to close Property Sheet. And we're going to save our query as query patients by name, and then we'll run the query. Go ahead and hit OK, and click Run. Hopefully yours looks like this one does, which should look similar to 5-12 in the text. Let's go ahead and save and close our query. Now in the next section we're going to be working with we're going to create a query patients by city parameter, and that section is to create the parameter query based on the existing query, and I'll show you those steps now. As you're following along in your e-text, we are covering pages 250 and 251 for these next few steps over creating a parameter query based on existing query. Those are steps we're going to be completing now. Back to our database. Alright, so let's go ahead and create a copy of our patients by name query. Right click on that, select copy, paste it, and we are going to give it a name of patients by city parameter. So let's go ahead and enter that now. Once you have that saved, go ahead and click OK. Let's open our new query here. Let's close our navigation pane. Switch this to design view. And let's go ahead and click the city criteria box. So let's go to criteria. There we go. Now we're going to type in the information they want us to type in. And once you have that typed in, make sure that you've got that information enclosed in the brackets. And go ahead and hit enter. Let's go ahead and save our query now. Let's go ahead and run. Now once this is type in the city, let's type in Waterbury. And hit enter. Now that we've ran that, you'll notice that our record set has displaying 2 records for our 2 patients that are in Waterbury. Now we know our query works, but our customer wants to know what happens if they don't put any information in. So let's go ahead and go to design view. Let's run our query. We won't put any information in, we'll just hit OK. As you can see, it returns no values as expected. Okay, so let's now go to the last section of 5.1 in tutorial 5, which is to modify and test the parameter query. Now you notice that those steps are on page 251 and 252, 253. So let's go ahead and complete these now to finish up part 5.1 of our tutorial 5. Go ahead and switch back to design view now. And we are going to click in the city criteria box again and open the zoom dialog box. Alright, let's go ahead and modify the value that's in our city criteria box. So let's go to the left of the expression in the zoom dialog box here and modify our query based on the next couple steps of changing what our criteria is. So let's go ahead and type that information in now, and it should look like this. So hopefully you've got all the information in there. Make sure that your asterisk is embedded in quotes there, as shown in figure 5-16. So now that we have our expression built, let's go ahead and test the modified parameter query. Let's go ahead and click the OK button now. Let's go ahead and save as always, now that we've made some changes, and let's go ahead and run. This time let's enter a parameter value of Windsor. See what happens by clicking OK or pressing the enter key. Now you see we had 10 records returned for all of those patients that are in the city of Windsor. So let's go ahead and see if our query now, makes things work a little bit easier for our customers. Let's go ahead and switch back to design view. We're going to run our query again. Only this time, we are not going to put any values in again. Let's just go ahead and hit OK. You'll see that all of our values are now returned because of the way we changed and modified our parameter. Let's enter it one more time. Go to design view. Run. This time, let's just put a W in for our criteria for any cities that begin with the W. And you'll see now we have 19 records that have been created because we have 3 cities, Windsor, West Hartford, and Waterbury, that all begin with W. Let's go ahead and close our query now. and we're going to go ahead and save what we've been working on. Well, we don't need to save it now, but we're going to go ahead and jump into the next section, 5.2, in Tutorial 5.